Welcome back to another episode on the Expand Your Awareness 2.0 podcast. My name is Aaron Doughty, and I'm excited to be here with you today. And this is the first episode ever in the new Sedona house. So many of you may or may not know, but I recently made the move to Sedona, and I'm coming back and forth. Here's a funny synchronicity as well that I'm going to share with all of you. So I have my house in Las Vegas, and I drive about 4 hours here to Sedona. And Sedona is magical, by the way. If you guys have never been to Sedona, it's a very magical energy. I also feel very much a connection to like Native Americans being here, almost like a root. There's something here that really inspires me that I really vibe with. And even this room that I'm in right now is going to be the future. I mean, it is a podcast room now, but I'm designing it. I have like a Navajo rug. I have some art coming. And when I have podcast guests, because eventually I'm going to be bringing in a lot of guests that I'm going to be doing episodes with, we're going to be on these pillows. I have these pillows under me right now, and I am going to be having us sit on the ground. My guests, we're going to sit on the ground, and we're going to be doing kind of like not like a kumbaya style, but definitely like a style where we're all kind of casually talking. Because a lot of times, like I have this hop hay section at my house in Vegas, and we sit on like these little shaman chairs in the main part of the house that we chill the most in. It's not really a couch. It's like these little cushioned chairs that we sit on. And that's where we love to chill, and we love to have a great conversation there. So the idea is to like recreate that in a way where we're having that kind of conversation in this room. And this room is going to be like very charged. I'm going to go back to Vegas and get a lot of the crystals that I have and stuff. And I've been here for 3 weeks. I haven't gone back to Vegas. I'm about to go back to Vegas next Monday, I think, for a couple days. But an interesting thing happened with that as well, just in general. So this episode is on shifting to the most optimal timeline. But I think that what I'm about to share with you is kind of like pushing me onto the most optimal timeline in some ways, because right now I'm seeing so many people that are being called to step into the unknown, and also to let go of something that maybe they've been tied to for a long time. So for example, for me, I've recently made this move to where I've spent the last 3 weeks in Sedona. There's a new house here that I'm in, and got a house with a buddy of mine, and I love Sedona. Sedona is very magical, and the idea was I'm going to be going back and forth between Las Vegas and Sedona. So they're about 4 hours away, 4-hour drive. I'll go back and forth. Now what happened is I've been here for about 2 or 3 weeks. It's so magical here. I go to the creek almost every day. I go biking often. I go for hikes all the time. It's amazing here. Now, one thing that happened though is I got a call 2 days ago from the landlord, the guy that owns the house in Vegas, because I'm renting in Vegas. I knew I didn't want to be in Vegas for a long time. And he calls me to let me know that, hey, I want to see if you want to buy the house, because he had like family situation where he needs to sell the house now. And he's like, do you want the house? And I was like, well, I need to think about it. But if not, then it may be and make sense for us to like stop the lease way earlier. My lease in that house goes till June 2021, which after I signed it, I was like, wow, that's a long lease, 18-month lease. I don't even know if I want to be in Vegas for 18 months. So in a way, what I think is happening with the energy dynamics that's happening is it's almost like the universe may be pushing me to let go of my ties in Las Vegas so that I can then kind of like be free and be maybe Sedona more often, maybe travel the world more often. But I'm feeling this calling in a way, and this kind of like, letting go of the old. I have a buddy of mine that recently is, cut and put in his 2 weeks at his job because he's about to go full time doing what he loves. And it's very cool to see, very inspiring. But I remember that was one of the biggest changes in my life. And I tell everyone, the biggest change people think that, this is for people that want to do what they love full time and maybe aren't doing that right now. The biggest shift you will ever make in your life is not from going from making $50,000 a year to like $300,000 a year. The biggest shift you will ever make in your life is when you work for someone else and then you start to work for yourself. The biggest shift I ever made was when I worked a $60,000 a year job selling women's shoes, and then I went to a $70,000 for the first year I was of going full time with my passion. That was the biggest change I ever made because I bought my time back. Time is the most valuable resource. So the reason I'm sharing a lot of this with you is the most optimal timeline. What is the most optimal timeline? Well, it's going to involve you letting go of the old things that also made you feel comfortable. Some of you may be in relationships that are comfortable, but you don't actually have or want to be in them deep down. And maybe part of you maybe somebody treats you very bad. Maybe somebody treats you negatively. Maybe they talk down to you and you're just comfortable with it. You're used to it and they're there. But maybe part of this whole optimal timeline, understanding this, is about letting go of the old that's not serving, especially if you're being talked down to and your power, you kind of feel like your power is being leaked out of you. That's really what this time on the planet is about right now. It's a time on the planet of letting go of the old to then be in the new. And for those of you that don't know, a lot of the teachings that I have, that's pretty much the step process right there. Transforming your life is about transforming your sense of identity, who you believe you are. And if you have this sense of identity that you are unworthy or you can't accomplish that which you want, or that you're not that you're meant to be single, or you're meant to be that, whatever the story is, if your identity is tied to that, then that's going to be your reality. And if you want to change, this is what you do. You have the old identity, the old way of being, the old, it's about becoming aware of what you've been thinking, feeling, and acting, becoming aware of that. And then deciding to let that go, knowing you just made a choice in the past that this is who you were. And then it's about wiring in the new. That's it. Letting go of the old, wiring in the new. It's so simple. It's so simple. It's super simple. And that's really all it is. I let go one time, the 9-to-5 job, that story I told myself, and I wired in. And actually, I did both for a while. I had that 9-to-5 job, and I was making full-time videos on YouTube. And then eventually I was able to let it go, but I literally wired in a new sense of identity. I am somebody that makes daily videos on YouTube. That was my sense of identity. And for you, maybe your sense of identity is that you are doing whatever your passion is. So many people, like the most optimal timeline is directly correlated to your passion. You doing what you love. One of the ways of being in the highest vibrational state of consciousness is you following your passion. That's it. We think it's this really complex thing, or like shifting the most optimal timelines. Like, well, where's the vaccinations? I don't want to be on the vaccination timeline. I don't want to be on over there where there's all that violence and stuff. I want to be on that one over there. If you follow your passion and you especially start to question your reality, a lot of this is becoming aware of the conditioning. We've all been conditioned. We've been conditioned from that of Disney movies. We've been conditioned from the media. The media literally is creating a belief system that there's so much fear and anger in the world that that's just normal. It's like if people watch enough of that old school, I know this is probably a way outdated episode or thing, but there used to be a show called Operation Repo, where people would watch people getting their cars and houses taken away from themselves. There'd be all this drama that happens. And then people look out into the world and assume that that's everywhere, that this is just the way reality works. People are just constantly fighting with each other. And that's happening to everyone and their mom. And it's like that develops a belief system that then goes on autopilot. So one of the things that I want to share with you when it comes to the optimal timeline is understanding that, first off, the most optimal timeline is going to be tied to your passion. Me coming to Sedona was a way of following my passion. Now, it's not that my overarching but like identity for my whole life is like your purpose in life is to move to Sedona. No, that's a side effect of me following my passion. Following a passion is just, it's a state of being. It's a way that you are. You might want to go to the park. You might want to go watch a movie. You want to go eat a certain type of food. You might want to go study a certain type of book or certain type of topics or hang out with certain friends. It's following your passion. Doesn't mean that your whole entire life, all you're meant to do is read a book. This is a not an end. It's almost like making it an end of itself instead of a means to an end. Your passion is a way that you are. So when we talk about the most optimal timeline as well, let's talk about this. This is something that both my buddy Victor Otto and I recently, we had a reading with Bashar, who we've been, watching since like 2011 or 12. Both of us, even though we didn't know each other, Victor and I didn't know each other yet. We had a reading with Bashar about 4 or 5 months ago, or maybe a little bit less, maybe like 3 months ago. And one thing that he said is he said that we were talking to him about, he talks a lot about how there's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist. So there's parallel realities that are so similar and they just kind of overlap each other. Now, there's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist, and the one that we shift to is going to depend on our own vibration. Our vibration is a combination of how we think, feel, and act. Now, that's also what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about when he says your personality. Your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is a combination of how you think, feel, and act. In the same way, think of it, there's an infinite number of potentialities that exist. The timeline you are on is the timeline you are in resonance with, the timeline you identify with, the timeline you are embodying with action, feeling, and thought. Now, one of the things that happens, though, is that we assume that if the collective is going in a certain direction, then maybe we are at the mercy of the collective. That was one of the questions that Victor and I were asking. Well, there's a lot going on with the collective consciousness and the Great Awakening, which, like, we were asking, like, well, a lot of people are experiencing a lot of fear in their lives. They may be watching the news. They may be seeing this stuff about vaccination and a lot of the craziness going on with the equality and the riots and all of this stuff. And people may look at that and say, well, there's a lot of craziness. And maybe they're really in it. They're really paying attention to it. On another side of it, though, my buddy Victor and I realize that our lives are getting, even though there's craziness in the world, our lives are getting better and better. Our individual lives. Now, also, we're not watching the news. We are doing our passion, and we are doing everything we can to bring through what we are meant to be doing to help awaken as many people as possible. That's our path. That's what we love doing. So the interesting thing is that as we focus on that, it's like there's more abundance, there's more synchronicity, there's more alignment, there's more enjoyment, there's more loving the process than ever before, yet there's more chaos in the world. And that's what we asked Bashar. We said, hey, Bashar, like, what about all that chaos, like everything happening? Does it have to get bad for all of us? And he said, no. The parallel reality you shift to, the collective parallel reality you shift to, is going to depend on your individual vibration. And depending on that, that's going to be the collective that you shift to. The issue that we have in our mind with this is we assume that we're all in flux on the same exact timeline. But there's different versions of it that exists based on our individual vibration. And even looking at it right now, some people are freaking out about a lot of stuff happening in the world. Yet there's some people that aren't. And it depends on what you focus on. There's many different timelines that exist, and the one that we experience is going to depend on our own individual vibration. So one of the most powerful things every single one of us can do is to take utter responsibility for that of our own vibration. And if we continue to look at the media, if we continue to look at the news, if we continue to believe everything we're told, then we will continue to experience that reality. That will be the timeline we're on. I do believe, by the way, that there is, with everything that happened at the beginning of the year and everything that's happening in the world now, I believe there are way worse timelines that exist, but we're not on it. You know, so many people are waking up. Also, it's incredible how many people are waking up. People are realizing and looking into the world, and they're like, wait, there's something else going on. I was at the creek yesterday. I mean, Sedona, you could say, is a more high vibrational place, so maybe there's more people that are awake, but there's this guy from Phoenix, and he was a funny guy. He wasn't really into the spiritual awakening stuff for sure, but he was telling me, like, this stuff's a bunch of BS. Like, he was like, you know, he's able to see right through the media. And he was like venting to us, and we're like, okay, man, we're just trying to enjoy the creek. But it's incredible how many people are waking up to not necessarily believing everything they're told, not believing the exaggeration at least. So when we look at all of this, when we look at what's happening in the world, whatever you pay attention to and you feed your energy to and you believe in is what you're becoming. I'm going to say something, you know, I've been also really sharing this with people as well, and I really believe this. Everything in life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everything. Literally everything is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You could say it's also placebo, Placebo works like 60-70% of the time or something like that. A placebo is something that may not actually be, it's the mind believing in something and then it having that desired effect. Now, when I say self-fulfilling prophecy, it's almost like whatever story you're telling yourself, that is going to be the reality you're in. You say, oh, right now, even me, these are a lot of the things I share with you right now are like the story is, I'm in Sedona. It's so magical here. The landlord calls, tells me, hey, I'm going to sell the house. And the story is maybe the universe wants me in Sedona or wants me to travel the world, wants me not in Las Vegas. That may be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I then believe it, I'm buying into it, and then that becomes my reality. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday. He's like, well, I feel like he's getting ready to leave that job that I was talking about earlier. He's getting all these intuitions, these feelings. I was like, yeah, well, maybe part of that too is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. He's like, because his self-fulfilling prophecies will be different too. He was telling me, he's feeling like he needs to completely detach from his job and then to do his full time. I did it a little bit different. I had a full-time job selling women's shoes, started making daily videos on YouTube, did that for months, and then I started gaining momentum, and then I went full-time. So I did both for a while, which is right. And I was telling him, neither is right or wrong. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. My belief system was that I need to do this, I need to do the job plus this, and then I can make that transition. And his was, he could just let it go, which is the right answer. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We will get constantly a reflection in our life of what we most strongly believe to be true about ourselves. Now, which timeline as a collective are we on? One of the biggest weapons that the dark elite, whatever we want to call them, have is that we believe they have power and that they garnish the attention. That's why they own a lot of the media. If they can garnish the belief system of millions of people, then they can direct the parallel timelines that we are on. It's harnessing the belief system and the attention. Now, one of the ways you take back your power is you take back your attention. And you take utter responsibility for everything you believe, every story you tell yourself of what you believe to be true. And as you take back your power, guess what? You're going to begin to feel more and more and more powerful. Obviously, you take back your power, you feel more powerful. Now, I do believe that there are timelines that exist where the thing at the beginning of the year affected maybe 20 million people, actually affected 20 million people as well. Not that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all. I know it does, and I know that it's harmed many people, but I also know that a lot of the numbers have been skewed based on doctors getting notes saying, hey, if anybody passes away, mark them as this. And then the interesting thing is some people are receiving money for, if their family members pass away, then what happens is they are receiving money from the government, and they're claiming that those people that passed away died of this, when even though they may have not died of that at all, but they're receiving like 11,000 or some odd number of money. So you're not going to really complain. Hey, you guys gave me this money. I don't want it because no, people are just accepting it. I know it's a tangent that I'm talking on right now, but just want to kind of show that if you can make people think things are way worse than they are, then it's much easier to keep people in fear. And once again, when people are in fear, they're much easier to control. It's just the way it works. Now, the timelines that exist, there's timelines where that affected way more people than that. There's timelines where they're bringing out forced vaccinations and all this other bad stuff. Those timelines already exist. Which are you going to tune to? Now, here's one of the biggest traps that you're going to find in this whole process that I want to share with you, and it's a trap that I fell down for a while. Now, once again, I think awareness is very powerful. Becoming aware of your own energy, becoming aware that also there's been some things in the world, we can call it the darker elite, these people that have, in a way, controlled a lot of, or intended to control a lot of the earth perspectives. It's the idea is that if you keep people in a certain realm of consciousness, they're much easier to control. They're much more likely to look to authority for certainty. And there's an elite group of people that know this. Now, when you start to learn this, it can be very powerful. But if you start going down certain rabbit holes, you'll find that it becomes very dense energy. It starts to weigh on you. It starts to influence you in negative ways. So one of the things that I want to share with you is that I went down some negative rabbit holes months ago. I was studying a lot of the Great Awakening content, which I think is very powerful. It's very empowering to realize there's more to reality than we're shown, because when you start learning about how powerful meditation is, observing your thoughts, when you start learning these things, it really changes your perspective about life. You start to also become aware of a lot of the belief systems you have that are like holding you back. Like I become aware that I believed I had ADHD, and once again, that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not saying that ADHD is only a self-fulfilling prophecy. In some ways, the identification with it, I think, has a powerful effect on the consistency of people that have like the kind of response that they do have. But I'm just saying for myself, I realized that I was told that. I agreed to that because I was told you have a lot of energy, you have ADHD, and then that was my reality. I thought the only solution to that was Adderall, which is a harsh like pharmaceutical drug. Then what happened is I learned about meditation, and that completely changed my life. But part of that was I became aware of the stories, the beliefs I had about myself, the identity, the way I saw myself. And as I did, I started to unravel and become free. And then after that, I started to realize, well, why don't they teach this in school? Why does this have such a powerful life-transforming effect on me? Because I started going through my spiritual awakening. Why did I have to stumble across this? That's when I started getting into some more of the conspiracy theory stuff. That was back in 2012. And now a lot of the stuff happening in the world, it became aware, we become very obvious that there's other stuff going on as certain stuff was being exploited by the media and stuff like that. And then what happened is become aware of it, and I started to go down different rabbit holes. There was certain documentaries I was watching. There was like this YouTube series called like Fall Cabal, which is like, it was like definitely a rabbit hole. And while some of the stuff may be true, some of it may be a little exaggerated, I don't know. You have to use discernment with a lot of these things. But the thing that I recommend is you be very mindful of your own energy. It's becoming aware that, yes, there's other stuff going on, it's powerful, and then saying, okay, what am I going to do with this? Some people start going down rabbit holes, and they start giving up their energy over and over again, and they're in fear, and they're worried about vaccinations and this and that. I remember I saw my mom and my brother kind of go down this rabbit hole, and they came over to my house, and I was like, guys, I stopped like paying attention to these things like 2-3 weeks ago. My energy feels so much better now. It's like weighing down my energy. I think part of the shifting to the most optimal timeline is following your passion. That's one of the most important things. When you follow your passion, you're in the highest vibrational state. You're also, in a way, following your higher guidance. That's directing you in a certain direction. The other side of this, though, is be very, very mindful of where you put your attention, even if it's on conspiracy theory, even if it's on these things that may actually be happening. Become aware of it, but then choose where you put your energy. If it's your passion to study that and to make people aware of that, then do that. But it's not my passion to study that. It doesn't make me feel good. Now, I have other ways that I go about awakening people, and I try to do it, even when I share the Great Awakening content, I try to do so with a very positive mind state, positive perspective. It's like the most positive way you can share some of the most darkest stuff in the world. That's the intention I have, at least. But the key to this is being aware that if you start going down these rabbit holes and it starts to feel negative, understand that it may be dampening down your energy a little bit. So when you talk about these optimal timelines, you could be studying the vaccinations and this and that, and even studying it tags you to that energy. And remember, there's an infinite number of collective realities that exist. So the one that you shift to is going to be dependent on which one you are tuned to. You tune based on your attention. So what are you focused on? Where is life taking you? Is there a certain energy flow that you feel intuitively guided to go in, but part of you is afraid to really step in? And the most optimal timeline, though, is about really becoming aware of these different aspects of you. It's also about really waking up to the autopilot mind. The autopilot mind, realize your identity is doing everything it can to keep you consistent to the way you've done before, because all your identity in your self-image wants you to do is to survive. That's it. And the way you survive is what you know is comfortable. It is comfortable to go to the same job every day, or it's comfortable to go and do the same things every day, talk to the same people every day. Those are very comfortable. It's in the autopilot mind. One of the biggest things you can do to put yourself on the most optimal timeline is to boldly do your passion and to be unapologetically you. I share some pretty esoteric stuff on my YouTube channel. The more I open up and I share these concepts, the more free I feel. And the goal is to become more free. The more free you feel, the more authentic you are, and the more you're then on that most optimal timeline. Now, if this would not be that powerful. Well, what I mean by this is the most important thing that I can mention to you, though, that I think is going to change you and put you on the most optimal timeline is meditation. Meditation will change your life. Meditation will raise your frequency, will help you let go of resistance, help you let go of something, or just resistance in general, and put you on the most optimal timeline. And that's why we do group guided meditations. If you go right now to YouTube and you type in the most powerful meditation for shifting to the most optimal timeline, you'll see a video. It's actually going live as I'm recording this, it's going live in about 40 minutes. And it's a meditation that we're all going to be doing together, bringing in high vibrational energy and us shifting collectively to the most optimal timeline. So it's a combination of both our own individual vibration and then also the vibration of the collective. But realize it's mainly your own individual vibration because the collective you shift to is going to depend on your vibration, as what Bashar said. However, meditation is the most powerful way that I have found to raise my own frequency and also to visualize high vibrational energy coming in. And this is a way that we collectively can do this together, because realize when millions of people are focused on fearful timelines, it increases the probability of that. When thousands of us are focused in a high vibrational state on more optimal timelines, that can balance millions of people focused on a negative timeline because we're in a higher vibrational state with meditation than the discoherence that many people will be in those other states if they're feeding negative timelines. So meditation is one of the most powerful things you can do. I have a podcast episode on that and the YouTube video that's on that. So you can type it in on YouTube, or you can go on the YouTube channel, or I'm sorry, the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, and you will see an episode there. I think on iTunes or on Spotify, it's this episode will shift you to the most, no, that's this episode. It's this meditation will shift you to the most optimal timeline or something like that. But nonetheless, meditation is one of the most powerful things you could do. If you were to gain a meditation practice, it would completely transform your life. Even just doing it 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, or even the guided meditation. That one we did is very powerful. I can't wait to do it in half an hour, 40-something minutes. But it's going to be super powerful. I'm super excited to do it. Following your passion is the most important thing. Being aware of your energy and your attention. Where are you putting your attention? Wherever you put your attention is where you're putting your energy, and that is putting you on certain timelines. Be aware of your belief system about who you are. Wake up from the autopilot mind. Literally make a new choice about who you are. Take action from that new identity and break out of the old identity, which may mean letting go of things that no longer serve you. And as you begin to let go of the old, you can then wire in the new, which is the key to you raising your vibration to a new state of consciousness. Realize there's more good happening in the world than ever before. There's more people waking up than ever before. The meaning we give what's happening in the world right now is going to be the meaning and the effect we get out of it. So us deciding to give it a positive meaning is going to be us getting a positive effect. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you could do me a huge favor and review this podcast on iTunes and Spotify, that would mean the world to me. It really helps the podcast grow. I hope you're excited. We have a lot more great episodes coming. I'm excited to share those with you. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace, much love, and namaste.